What if a sun-soaked summer vacation held secrets that could change everything? Two older men, deeply in love, decide to announce their engagement at Tony's picturesque seaside villa. Sounds idyllic, right? But what if their heart-filled revelation stirs up more than just a little family chatter? Join me on a journey as I tell you about a story where love meets family drama, and prepare for twists that no one saw coming. The movie starts with a teacher named Penelope and a kid hanging out alone in the daycare. It seems the parents have forgotten to take the baby 5 times now, and the teacher is disappointed with them. Meanwhile, a family is shown having their best life as they travel on the beach. When they arrived at the resort, carrying all their baggage, they saw a couple dancing beside the pool. In another scene, a seemingly wealthy mother and daughter went to visit Tony, a refined and wealthy man, living in a lavish villa with breathtaking views of the ocean. Tony is shown as self-assured and courteous, always dressed in sharp, fashionable summer clothes. He went to greet his daughter, Olivia, who he refers to as a genetic masterpiece for her undeniable beauty. As they wait for her sister, Penelope, Olivia mentioned that she wants to visit the guest house. However, Tony stopped her, saying he actually made it a renting place. Olivia seemed intrigued as to why he needs to rent the place when he's too wealthy to be in need of money. She then went directly to who rented the place and met the family: Carolina, his husband Sandro, and his father Carlo. Catena Sandro and Patena Carlo went to shake hands with Olivia, and they asked her about the bathroom. Olivia showed their outdoor bathroom with a mural of 2 guys kissing, which caught Sandro off guard. At this point, Sandro almost doesn't want to continue their rent as he's worried their kids will see the painting, but Carmen defended it, saying there's nothing wrong about it. During that night, Sandro seemed to be rehearsing a speech regarding his mother's passing. "For years I've been mourning for Mom, but nowadays I'm finally able to smile." Suddenly, a car crash nearby happened which halted his speech. The woman is Penelope, who went to attend Tony's birthday dinner party along with Olivia, Gianluca, and Ida, Tony's ex-wife. Soon after, Tony announced that instead of celebrating his birthday, he revealed that he is currently in love and will announce his wedding soon, which caused shock to his audience. When Tony mentioned that it is a man that he's marrying, only Penelope couldn't process and was questioning everything, including his gender. He also confirmed that he will be having the wedding in 3 weeks, which left Penelope speechless. Despite the initial shock, Tony's family gradually shifts into a mode of reluctant acceptance. They rally around him, attempting to understand his decision, though their faces reveal a mix of confusion and concern. Meanwhile, Tony was enjoying seeing the family that rented the guest house eating in the same restaurant. He excused himself to go into the bathroom when he called Carlo to come out from one of the cubicles. Carlo is too nervous to get outside because Carolina wasn't supposed to bring their 2 boys along, and he was planning to only explain things to Sandro, but things are not going as he expected it to be. It was then revealed that Carlo was actually the man Tony is in love with. Tony has been waiting for 7 months for Carlo to come out of his family, and he's getting impatient, so he urged him to do it now that they have a chance. Tony calmly asked the nervous Carlo if he really wanted to marry him or not, but when he was about to answer, Sandro entered the comfort room. Sandro got mad because he saw Tony touching Carlo, but Carlo stopped him from going after the man. Meanwhile, Olivia and Penelope heard the noise in the comfort room, so they rushed to go knowing Tony went there. They caught the scene and Tony immediately went to them. Without any second thoughts, announced that Carlo is the man he's planning to marry. Sandra was too shocked with what's happening, so Carolina went to her, while Carlo ran away from the scene. Meanwhile, Tony's family was actually delighted and even complimented Carlo's good looks. Only Penelope seems to be against it. In the streets, Carlo was trying to explain everything to Sandro, but he refused to believe it was true. Even Carolina and her son couldn't say anything to him after knowing that he's been in a relationship with a man for more than a year. At Tony's home, Penelope tried to convince her dad to think about it because the way Carlo's family reacted is bad. It seems there's a huge difference with how Olivia and Penelope accepts this, as Olivia is more open about gay marriages. Tony shrugged it off as he's more concerned with Carlo having difficulties explaining their marriage to his family. In the guest house, Carlo was lying helplessly while Tony saw that his family was taking their baggage to go home. The two argue with how the approach is too bold that made them react like that, but Tony believes whatever approach they've done, the reaction would be the same. Penelope sneaked into the guest house to convince Sandro to go against the two's relationship. But while they both agree that it shouldn't happen, Sandro is against the idea of screwing up their wedding, which leaves Penelope hopeless. When she was about to go home, Sandro asked her about her plans, which made her thrilled. In the morning, Penelope was bad-mouthing Carlo to her mum, but she didn't know that Carlo was at their breakfast table. The other family members, however, approached him in a friendly manner and even congratulated him. While they were having breakfast, Sandro went to ask his father for a private talk. Tony went to see how they would talk and was glad to see that Sandro decided to accept their marriage and stay with his father. In the pool, the two families had merged and had the time to get to know each other, including Carolina and Penelope. Sandro seemed to be having a hard time finding an antenna to connect their TV, which Penelope saw as an opportunity to invite them over to their house. Meanwhile, the girls, Olivia, Ida, Penelope and Carolina, have stayed to have a talk in the garden. It seemed the girls had taken an interest in Carolina's relationship. They also urged her to experiment a bit regarding bisexual experiences, which made Carolina culture-shocked. Sandro still doesn't like Tony and even said bad things to him before going out, and Carlo is looking for a solution for it. Tony saw Penelope chilling under the sunlight and they talked a bit till he asked for a drink at home. Penelope eventually obliged. As she was looking for the drink Tony requested, she saw a photograph of Tony with Carlo which has sweet notes behind it. Penny saw an opportunity to talk to Carolina's kids and handed them some firecrackers to play with. Then she returned to Tony like nothing happened. When Tony started to have fun talking with Penny, a firecracker was sent above them, which caused Tony to be surprised and get up naked. He was sunbathing. Carlo, Carolina, and Sandro then rushed to the balcony and were shocked to see Tony's nakedness. It left a bad impression on them. Sandro scolded his sons, and it was revealed that Penny was the one who made them play with it. Soon after, the firecrackers had set the plans on fire, which turns out to be marijuana, and another firecracker has hit Sandro, which made a huge mess. In the hospital, Sandro went to get his wounds treated and Penny tagged along to talk about their plans. While Sandro was preoccupied by waiting in line for the medication, his kids outside requested to go into a carnival. Carlo then decided to stay with Penny and Sandro in the hospital, while Tony went along with the kids to take them to the carnival. While Sandro was being treated, Carlo took the opportunity to talk with Penny and tell how he and Tony met. It was in the hospital too, and they talked to each other for 20 days at first, then it continued. Carlo told Penny how he didn't accept the relationship at first because he can't imagine himself with a man, but with Tony everything is simple and free. This made Penny feel guilty for what she's done and what she's planning. After things had been settled in the hospital, the three went to the carnival to fetch Sandro's kids. They saw Tony talking to some folks, but they couldn't find the kids. Sandro is furious with Tony because of his carelessness, while Tony is just taking it lightly, saying that they don't have an idea how many times he lost Penny when she was a child. Carlo, meanwhile, didn't like his attitude and scolded him. Then they eventually went to help finding. The kids are safe and were found eventually. The next morning, while Tony and Carlo are talking, Penny's mother arrives uninvited. She directly went to talk with the two regarding their relationship, saying she's not opposed to it, but she's more concerned about Penny's inheritance. It turns out, Penny is actually Tony's daughter from another woman and Olivia is his legal daughter. Carlo couldn't process everything, so he snatched Tony away for a private talk. It was then revealed that Carlo didn't actually know Tony's history with women and affairs. He has gone angry from the situation and left. In the event ceremony, Penny's mother tags along to Carlo and Tony as they greet the guests. It's on purpose to make Carlo out of place. And while Carlo is not happy seeing how Tony is close to every woman, he decides to give them space. Olivia then went to him ranting about donations until they saw Penny seeing his ex in the event. It turns out Penny saw this guy kissing another woman last year and broke up. They were dating for 4 months, which was her longest relationship. Carlo felt pity towards Penny, so he got her a drink. He told her about how his ex is an asshole for leaving him, which made Penny feel a sense of relief. Meanwhile, Sandro and Carolina arrived at the event and were greeted by people seeking donations. Sandro, being a hard worker, doesn't want to give them any money, and so they had a heated argument. Carlo went to stop them and explained to Sandro that it is not mandatory to give a donation. Sandro is somehow offended with how his father acted, defending the donation seekers. Carlo wanted to call Tony for help, but he's no longer in the place where he sat earlier with Penny's mom. And while they haven't even stayed long, Sandro and Carolina already left the party. Carlo told Penny that they'll be going home, in case Tony finds them. Later that night, Carlo and Sandro talked about their life. Sandro said that he doesn't recognize his father anymore and that they should have separate lives instead. It made Carlo contemplate whether he's committing with the right person. That morning, Carlo went to confront Penny's mother and Tony for acting selfishly last night. He was so brave in arguing, which made Penny's mom laugh and take his side. Soon after, Penny's mom went to the guest house where Carlo is cooking breakfast. She told him how much she likes his stance in the argument, and they eventually made up. Meanwhile, Carolina noticed that Penny and Sandro had been meeting, but she didn't know why. Penny wanted to convince Sandro to finish what they started, but it seems Sandro no longer wants to do it. The two families had a combined breakfast, but Carlo didn't want to sit along with them as he was cooking, and already dirty. This made Tony sad until he heard Carlo play music and started dancing. Carlo danced along with him and everyone joined as well. Later after that, the two families are having fun, getting along well, and the couple have become more sweet with each other. During that night, Penny talked with her mom about being tolerant with what Tony does. Her mom then explained that Tony really loves Carlo and that she's happy for them, so Penny should be too. The next day, Penny's mom left for Paris and everyone gathered to have fun at the pool. Carlo learned that everyone already knows that he's engaged with Tony, even Diego, but his son approves of it. It made Carlo feel relieved and had fun. That night, Penny and Sandro talked about the plan, but somehow Penny ends up talking about her life. Sandro softens up to Penny as he realizes she's not a bad person, but it did not go well when Penny suddenly kissed him. Carolina happened to be observing the two and went on a rage when Penny kissed Sandro. Carlo and Tony went to them to fix the problem, but it was revealed that Penny was actually planning to wreck their wedding. Everyone was shocked, especially Tony, who somehow hated Penny for plotting it. Being left out by everyone, Penny had a panic attack and only Carlo was there to calm her. They drove to the shore and talked about everything. Then Carlo finally understood Penny's viewpoint. That morning, when Penny and Carlo returned to the guest house, no one was there except Tony. Tony told them that Sandro and his family left already an hour ago and how Penny succeeded in wrecking the marriage. However, Carlo took Penny's side, knowing that Tony had a lot of shortcomings in his own daughter. Carlo left in a bus and went home to their house. He went to fetch Diego from Sandro's house, but Sandro told him how he lost respect for him for being like that. Carlo told him that it's his problem for thinking like that and got Diego to stay with him at their home. That day, Tony has reflected from his mistakes to Penny, while Penny also had a hard time feeling guilty for what happened. After 2 weeks, their lives have been back to normal, back to when they hadn't met. But Tony decided to talk to Penny and asked for her forgiveness. Penny then helped him to go to Carlo, which turns out to be fishing in the middle of the ocean. Sandro helped them reach him and the two have reconciled. When Carlo and Tony kissed, the fishermen mocked them, calling them fags, but they couldn't care less. In fact, their family is happy for them. The film culminates in a beautiful wedding ceremony where their families finally accepted each other and their different cultures.